Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our webinar series. My name is Keisha Johnson, Senior Marketing Coordinator at Daysmart Body Art, and I'm super pumped to be interviewing Joby Dorr, tattoo artist, owner, and freelancer with over 20 years of industry experience. Today, we're going to be discussing tips and tricks on how to grow your studio, how to promote yourself, and how to just stay competitive no matter where you're located. So without further ado, Joby, I'll hand it off to you to introduce yourself.
Great. Yeah, my name is Joby. Um, been tattooing. I just did the math actually the other day, and it's almost 26 years that I've been tattooing. And I also ventured into freelance illustration um, uh, in the neighborhood of 10 years ago. And that's something that I've kind of been on and off about. But yeah, it's good for, stacking multiple functions and revenue streams. And Yeah, been an artist mostly my whole life. I can't ever remember not being interested in art, and for reasons I'm sure we'll get into over the course of the conversation, tattooing was the best option for me, and as a way to make a living doing something with my art in a way that I could maintain sanity.
Nice. One question I always ask all of our guests is, how did you enter the body art industry? Because it's a very small and niche industry, and I feel like everyone has their own unique stories.
I could just as easily say that tattooing kind of happened to me as much as anything. I kind of fell into it backwards. Partying, a lot of partying is basically like what got me um, interested in it. One night, it just like everything was in front of me. It was all ready to go. The very first tattoo that I ever did was on myself. And I was in a state of mind that everybody else present was convinced it was going to end in a huge train wreck. It didn't. I wouldn't say it was like fantastic. It's not, anything that I would brag about. Uh, but it was decent enough that everybody there was like, "Oh, hey, I would like to get tattooed." And from there on, I was just like, that's what I wanted to do all the time.
Hmm.
It was a singular obsession, almost like from the very beginning. Um, yeah, I just knew that's what I wanted to do all of the time. And then there was like a long one thing led to another, sort of schema that I don't know. I won't get into too much. I can say that in all honesty, the first few years or the first year or so, I did things the wrong way. I did things in a way that I would now advise people to avoid, namely like tattooing myself, tattooing friends as like practiced at home in other people's homes, just not clean, not hygienic, not really knowing what I'm
Hmm.
doing, trying to figure out everything on the fly. And then eventually getting an apprenticeship, which is the way that I very strongly recommend everybody doing. Having done it the wrong way, I can
Hmm.
say from personal experience that there is a better way to do it, and getting an apprenticeship is the way. And when I got an apprenticeship, I kind of had to unlearn all of the bad habits, all of the things that um, yeah, when you're teaching yourself how to tattoo, what you're really teaching yourself is just a lot of garbage that you have to unlearn. So
Hmm.
yeah, the apprenticeship was the first, real introduction into the world of tattooing in a meaningful way that was able to like give me tools that I could progress with and actually like make advancements in my career and make it a thing. And just knowing that I wanted it to be the thing for my life and for my career, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Um, but when it came to you just being a tattoo artist in someone else's shop, like, what did you do to make sure that you were differentiating yourself compared to like the other artists? Because that's a question that we get often.
Um, well, personal style is, I mean, is that's going to be a big one, like what it is that you do how you do it, what that look is, and how you present yourself as a person. And
Mhm.
as a you are selling a product. It might feel gross and uncomfortable to some people to think about it in those terms, and that's kind of the unfortunate consequence of marketing and the commercialization and commodification of everything in our lives. People associate that terminology or that way of thinking now with something icky and gross and like something they have to like
Yeah.
suffer through and endure, and it doesn't have to be that way. um, what the analogy that I came upon a long time ago that I really like to use to kind of like paint the picture, if you will, of uh, how to differentiate yourself, I guess, just like how to market yourself or how to think about marketing yourself in a way that isn't gross, is building a house. If you That's something that we can all agree, like no matter who, that's a great accomplishment. Like building a house, no matter where you live, what culture you're from, you build a house, that's a great feeling. That's a success, right? Imagine you've just built a house. How excited are you going to be? How just like ready to go out into the world and tell everybody, look at this something that I did. I built a house.
Mhm.
I live there. My family is safe. My friends are safe. Like, of course, you would love that. And you would be so excited about telling everybody that you could possibly, force to listen to it, all
Mhm.
about the how. Think of your business, yourself, the tattooing that you do, like everything that's involved in that as you're building a house. Think about it with the same kind of pride, treat it with the same kind of respect and self admiration, and you know, and then talk to the world in the same way about, or in the same way that you would talk about something as awesome as building a house. And it is that awesome. Give yourself that credit. You're providing a means, to satisfy your immediate needs, satisfy your wants. Like I said before, the only limitation to your own growth is your abilities to, push yourself to those heights. So yeah, it, it's not a specific answer in terms of like here's like a series of things you do A, B, and C to differentiate yourself. It's more of a mindset, and I think that that's maybe even more important. I'm not trying to like scurry out of the question, but I do think that that's a huge part of the process is adopting the right kind of mindset that will set you up, because everything that you build on top of that, or yeah, whatever you build on starts with that mindset. And if you have a
Mhm.
good mindset, then everything that you build after that is almost guaranteed to succeed because you're just in that right state of mind. So think about the fact that you're building something that's awesome, be excited about it, and that will be contagious. That will show, that will. And I don't mean go do you don't have to be crazy. I'm not like a very my voice is very monotone. I'm not a good comedian. I'm not a good storyteller. I tend to, as you can tell, I tend to ramble incessantly down rabbit trails. So I'm not even like the poster child for like how to be entertaining. I'm not saying that. um but if you love it and you have passion, that will show. And I guess
Mhm.
just don't be afraid to show how much you love it, and the rest
Yeah,
will kind of follow from that.
I love that analogy of the house, and I guess in that way, like, when you step into someone's house or someone's space, you can easily tell if they enjoy living there based on, like, how it's decorated or how they exist in that space, right? And I really like that
Yeah.
approach. I I wanna ask for our listeners, like, what happens after they build that house and it's time to, like, market that to the world or show that to the world to say, like, "Okay, like, here's my house, like, here's what I've built, like, as an artist, as a person." What tools can, like, artists use right now to, like, promote themselves that isn't your standard, like, get on Instagram and post every day?
Yeah, the social media trap, right? I think
Mhm.
that's what we're really talking about. um, Personal website is good for that. Understanding how SEO works, and honestly, like a blog has done amazing things for me.
I mean, that's how I
I,
found you.
right? Yeah, yeah. Uh, People think of blogs nowadays as, I think, like grandma's recipe for apple pie or whatever, and it's like, talk about boomers, like who's reading blogs? How is that information relevant? And the answer is everybody. If you do a Google search for anything, it's guaranteed that like the front page, it's going to be 90% blog posts. It's going to be blog posts, and it's going to be Reddit and Quora, and
Mhm.
if you have a niche where you have some kind of expertise, honestly, like starting a blog is the best thing that you can do. The only thing that I would add to that though is that you can't just write about, like uh, ranting about personal opinions isn't going to work, or creative writing isn't like there are sort of certain rules, and that's beyond the scope
Yeah.
of this conversation. But SEO, search engine optimization, is a huge part of that. Understanding what it is that Google wants to see in order to know that the content on your website is something that other people are looking for, because that's what Google is trying to do, is trying to take the search query that people are presenting to it and then match it with like the infinite amount of content on the internet. A secondary one that I would mention briefly is networking locally. Like,
Mhm.
this is something that isn't going to be easy for everybody, because artists in particular tend to be antisocial, and I am a huge introvert, so I get it. Like, I'm not being like, this is going to be great, you're going to go meet all these people, but networking
Yeah.
locally is I think really important. That could be as easy as going to conventions, but local businesses, if you can get tied in with like local businesses, um, that is an avenue, not just for those relationships and the benefits that will come therein, but now, if you do it right, that's almost, um, those local businesses and those owners of other small businesses, they're helping now to promote you. If there's some kind of mutual exchange there, and you can figure out a way of like how that benefit can be mutual, that's somebody that's basically doing promotion for you. And the
Yeah.
more of those that you can network together, that's a multiplier of indeterminate volume. Like how valuable that is to have other small business owners that you have a relationship with, where there's some kind of mutual benefit of exchange, is is enormous. And if we can talk more about what those kinds of things could look like, but I leave it there.
Yeah. No, people also love to talk about their artists. Like you get someone talking about their
Hmm.
tattoo and where they got it, they like can go on and on about the artist who did it for them. And then bonus points if like you go to their artist to get your tattoo. Like I got a tattoo last year and I went to an artist that my friend had gone to. And it's just like I feel like this social norm too to be like, I want you to go to my artist because like that's my artist that I have a relationship with. And I think in the body art industry in particular, like that word of mouth is so important.
Yeah,
Um,
and it doesn't have to be grandiose too. Like, I mean,
yeah,
there's little variations of that. If I can talk about it a little bit more,
for sure.
I can give like a couple of like concrete examples. There's little things you can do to like either start that network, or like if you aren't like a very outgoing person, and whatever. It's like, think about like when you go to a restaurant, um, or a hair salon, um, or even like, eh, really, like anybody in the service industry is in a very similar position to a tattoo artist, in terms of the responsibility that they carry on their own shoulders for, making making sure that people have like a good experience, and then I don't know, like tips or repeat business or
Hmm.
whatever that looks like, that word of mouth. Other people in the service industry definitely understand where you're at, and you should understand where they're at, and you should do everything that you can to make their life awesome. And aside from a great tip, somehow letting them know that if they seem interested in tattooing, that you'll hook them up with an awesome tattoo. I don't necessarily mean for free, be realistic, but
Yeah.
great deals, like start that rapport with people that are other people that are in the working class, other people that are in service industries. Start that networking there. Sometimes I go through Starbucks, and uh, I'll pay for the person's order behind me, and that's like a little like connection that I'll make with the person at the window, and then maybe I'll leave my card with them. Now,
That's
now,
so
now,
smart.
now they know me. I'll keep hitting that same
Mm.
Starbucks. They get to know me. They're stoked, and think of it as like karma or whatever. I don't know. That person behind me is now having a better day. That when they pull up to the window, the window person and the person in that car are going to have a nice little exchange. Like everybody's day has just been like brought up
Right.
a couple of notches. All you did was drop an extra $10. And if you leave that business card with them, well, that's an exponential effect that's going to spread. And do that a couple of times. Like you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
You trust me, you'd be surprised. Hmm.
Can you discuss pricing strategies a little bit more and like how professionals can find the right balance between um, making a profit, but then also pricing themselves competitively enough for our current market?
Um, with tattooing, that equation is pretty easy. Whatever the going rate is in your area, that's kind of where you're at.
Mm.
There might be some people who, for various reasons, I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit. There might be some people in your area that are charging, like let's say that the average in your area is $150 an hour. Maybe there's some people that are charging like 200. That's not going to be like a really common thing, but it's probably because they just have like that clientele, that a clientele stack that's deep enough to warrant like a higher price, a reputation, or whatever. When I worked in Seattle, um, Aaron Bell, who owns Slave to the Needle, he was charging $300 an hour, and he had a 3-hour minimum, and that was at a time when like the average hourly rate I think was like 125.
Mm.
So, but that's because he was Aaron Bell, like that's not, and that's far and few between. So
Yeah.
if you're kind of, average Joe Blow tattoo artist, yeah, it's probably going to be like whatever everybody else is charging. That being said, if you're booked up for like 3 months in advance, solid, regularly, and you're like turning people away or whatever, that's a good indication that you could probably raise your prices by a decent margin.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what that is because that's something that you have to figure out, depending on what your clientele is like. But um, if you're really busy, raise your prices. If you're working your ass off, raise your prices. It's stupid to try and think about competition in this terms of like what everybody else is charging. Once you're busy enough that it's hard for you to keep up, what everybody else is doing immediately becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
You raise your prices $50, you might lose 10% of your business. You're going to end up making more money in the long run for the people that do stick around, plus the new clientele that will come, and you're going to end up working less. More money, less work. It's a really easy equation.
Yeah. I mean, suspiciously low prices could also drive clients out the door too. I was talking to
Oh, there,
someone the other
yeah.
week and she works as an esthetician where she like gives people like Botox. And we were talking about how like the tattoo industry and the Botox industry sometimes are really similar when it comes to like establishing price point, because people are willing to pay way more to go to a source they trust than like some boutique like Botox shop that does like cheaper work but may not look good because it's still permanent
Mhm.
on their body. And I think that's important to think about. Like, if cheap prices are what you think are differentiating you, you may not be getting like, I don't know, the best view of like the quality of your work when it comes to like customer perception.
Absolutely true, and there's no reason for it. It's cheap prices when it comes to tattooing is an absurdity. I don't even understand it. Like, in a way, I can kind of forgive um, the pedestrian clientele a pass for not understanding, but it breaks my heart when tattoo artists don't understand this, because this is something that's going to be on people's bodies for the rest of their life. What's
Yeah.
$200? If you break $200 down over the course of the rest of the person's lifetime, that's practically free. I'm sorry if they're giving you crap about it and that makes you feel bad, but that's not your problem, especially if you can assess anything, any item of clothing on their body that costs more than $50.
Yeah.
If that happened and they're giving you crap about how much you're charging or they seem finicky about it, good
Yeah.
night. Like, just don't
Yeah.
even waste your breath, dude. It's counterproductive to worry about what like the public thinks of your pricing, because there's a dozen people behind that person that does want to get tattooed, that does want to get tattooed by you and will pay your prices. And if somebody says, "Oh, my friend can do it cheaper," or like blah 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 quoted me this price, please go get tattooed by them. Absolutely, you should definitely try and get it wherever the lowest prices is. I'm not having that conversation with you. I want you to have that experience. And if you like the quality of work that somebody is doing for like really cheap, well, great. Like, oh, it's you're not my clientele anyway. It's not because I
Yeah.
have such an elevated, opinion of myself. It's just like that's what you want, and
Yeah.
like that's okay. And then if at some point you don't like it, come on back and I'll fix it up for you, and then start giving you good work that you do like.
Yeah. I agree. Since we're on the topic of education, I kind of want to end it on a high note. Um, you were talking a little bit about like your professional journey and how doing an apprenticeship kind of just like changed the game for you. Is that
Mhm.
advice that you would give to people who are just starting out or people who are looking to improve their craft a little bit better? Like, how would you say they pursue education, especially in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, if you've already got your foot in the door, so I'll start at the end and work backwards. If you've already got your foot in the door, but you're still like relatively new to it, I don't even know like if I need to say anything about where to find information, because I feel like at this point we all know about YouTube, um, and blogs and podcasts. If you've already got your foot in the door, there's no excuse for not being able to find out what it is that you want to find out. Um, there's yeah, there's nothing you can't do at this point with the internet and the amount of information that is there. So from everything from like finding like out about like new techniques, how to improve this, how to improve that, like YouTube can be your mentor. Like, if you don't have access to a good one, um, at this point in your career, yeah, YouTube is a great resource. Blogs are a great resource. Um, Other things that, and it depends on like what what thing you're looking to improve. Is it a tattoo technique? Is there something about the technical skills of tattooing you need to improve? Or is it
Mhm.
something artistic that you need to improve? Like, that's also important to be able to identify, like, or the business end, like what we were talking
Yeah.
about before, business skills. like what is the thing that you feel like you need to or you want to improve, and then break that thing down into the components. Identify what are the components of that go into like making that thing, like the huge marketing myself. Well, now you've actually just uh you've brought up 1,000 things that you need to unpack. And maybe not 1,000, I don't want to sound overwhelming and dramatic. I tend to do that. But you you there's more to marketing than just like, "I wanna market myself." Well, what does that even mean? What does marketing mean? What's entailed? What does marketing myself mean? All of those kinds of things. So you wanna be able to, like, break that down and understand what those
Yeah.
things are. That might be the first step when you're going to look for information, is like, what are the components that actually like go into making the thing that I'm trying to understand, and then study those things on an individual basis. It's like you're taking apart the sandwich. Here's the bread, here's the cheese. How do I make cheese? How do I make bread? How do I grow a tomato? How do I slaughter a chicken? Those are all things that you have to know before you can then make all of the pieces to make the sandwich, which is marketing myself or whatever it is, right? So, yeah, that's what I would say to people that are, like, trying to, like, figure out any given aspect or facet of the gem of tattooing and body art, is, like, understand, like, know what the thing is that you need to improve, and then figure out what are the different components that go into making that thing and learn them.
Mm.
If you're just starting out, tattooing is an industry of relationships. Whether you're trying to teach yourself or you're trying to get an apprenticeship, I feel like that's a really important thing to understand from the outset. And people might get pissed off about that and think, oh, gatekeeping, like clicks, and like it's all a lot of like high school like drama and what. Yeah, there's that, but more than that, it's a family. You don't just
Yeah.
walk into someone's house for Thanksgiving dinner who you've never met before. Who are you making friends? Do you know what a friend is? Hopefully you've had a friend before. Make friends in the industry. Then your question is, okay, well, how do I make friends in the industry? Get tattooed. Start meeting people by purchasing the services that they offer. And
Yeah.
don't be a jerk. Maybe that's a thing that you need to talk to ChatGPT about. How do I not be a jerk? What are social skills? How do I practice those things? Do you have them? Are you super nervous when you walk into a tattoo shop? Is it hard for you to talk to people in person, period? Whatever the hangups are, work on those. It's the same as the first thing that I talked about. What is the thing that I need to accomplish? What are the components that go into making that thing? How do I study those things? Tattooing is an industry of relationships, and you need to be able to build relationships in order to access the industry. And there's a very practical reason for that, I think, that goes above all the other ones. I've worked my ass off for 26 years to establish myself with a good reputation, a good clientele, like all of the things that make me successful in my business. I can't just let anybody like walk in and have access to that. My
Yeah.
entire reputation is at stake. My entire livelihood is at stake on maintaining this very delicate uh, apparatus that I am constantly maintaining by spinning all of the plates. Somebody just like walks into that I don't know. Of course not. No way. That's a danger. That's dangerous. It's literally dangerous. You're talking about someone's livelihood. So respect it for that. Respect the relationships for in that way, that you're talking about people's livelihoods. You're essentially asking people to share their livelihood with you, whether that's giving you an apprenticeship, giving you tips and information, whatever it is, that at the fundamental level, that's what you're asking people to do, is to share their. So approach it with humility, approach it with respect, and figure out how to make friends in the industry.
Yeah.
We already gone long, but I'll say this one more thing. It's not going to happen for you. It's not. There's a truck ton of energy that you are going to have to put into it. Whether I'm not going to say no one has never taught themselves in their kitchen to tattoo and then gone on to be a successful tattoo artist. But you're not gonna do it if you're not willing to put in the work, and it is a lot of work, just, like, get used to that idea, and you might have to move. It might not be the city that you're living in, and if it's something
Mhm.
that you really, really, really want, well, people go to different cities to go to college all the time. You might have to move. That's just a reality. So those things are gonna be compounded if you have some things that force you to stay in the position that you're in. That's it might not be your fault, but it's no one else's fault either. So you can't get mad about it. Either figure out how to change the situation that you're in, so that it's more conducive, or just kind of like accept the limitations and try and work as best as you can within them.
Well, that was a great way to end. Thank you so much, Joby. I think so many people are going to learn a lot from this. And can you let people know where to find you in case they want to reach out?
Yeah, definitely. So jobydor.com, JOBYDORR.com. And of course, Instagram, my name, Joby, JOBY underscore tattoos at
Awesome.
Instagram. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, find him, reach out if you have any questions. And thank you so much, Joby. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
I will. Thank you so much.